that day, because the valley was waiting for us, and it doesn't forget. The first hour passed without it. You don't always know when something will be your last. Sometimes you get to say goodbye, sometimes you don't. My name is Daniel Hayes, Sergeant, 101st Airborne Division, Vietnam, 1970. I was 23 years old, but I felt closer to 50. War has a way of aging a man. We called it the Valley of Shadows. It wasn't on any map, not officially. Just a stretch of land choked by jungle and fog, where the mountains closed in so tight the sun seemed afraid to shine. Our mission sounded simple. One last sweep, one last patrol through the valley before a larger operation moved in. We were told it was a routine recon. Routine. That word should have been a warning. Nothing in the Valley of Shadows was routine. There were 12 of us. My squad, my brothers, some kids, some hardened by too many firefights. We carried M16s, claymores, and the kind of quiet dread that only comes when you've buried too many friends. As we entered the valley, the air grew heavy. The jungle pressed close. It felt like walking into a throat that wanted to swallow us whole. Every sound was muffled. Even the birds seemed unwilling to sing. I should have listened to my gut that day, because the valley was waiting for us, and it doesn't forget. The first hour passed without incident. Too quiet, too still. My men walked in staggered formation, eyes scanning the underbrush, fingers brushing triggers with that restless discipline soldiers develop when they know something is wrong but can't name it yet. I glanced at Private Larkin, 19 years old, freckles under the grime, the youngest of us. He was trying hard not to show fear, but his shoulders betrayed him, tight, hunched, like he was bracing for a blow. Beside him trudged Corporal Sanchez, humming under his breath, a trick he used to steady the squad. The tune was unrecognizable, just a low murmur. Even so, it sounded defiant in that valley. We moved deeper. The fog thickened. Visibility dropped to 10 feet. My radio operator Collins muttered something about the valley not wanting us there. I hushed him, but I agreed. It felt alive, like the trees were listening, waiting. "Hold," I whispered, raising a fist. We froze. There was a rustle, faint but deliberate, somewhere ahead. Not an animal. Too measured. My squad sank low, rifles trained on the shadows. A minute passed, then another. The sound faded. We pressed on, slower now, hearts thudding. The trail narrowed until we were forced into single file. That's when the first trap revealed itself. Sanchez spotted the tripwire just in time. A crude setup, but deadly. Punji stakes, sharpened and coated with filth, hidden in a pit just off the path. He cut the wire with his knife, jaw set tight. "If there's one, there's more," he muttered. He was right. We found 3 more within the next 100 yards. Whoever set them knew this valley well. By noon, the air was suffocating. Sweat dripped into our eyes, mixed with mud on our faces. The silence pressed harder. The jungle wasn't just watching us now. It was closing in. Larkin finally whispered, "Sarge, it's like they know we're here." I didn't answer. I couldn't, because I felt it too. The enemy was out there, unseen, guiding us deeper into their trap. Then the first shot cracked through the fog. A bullet whined past my ear, splintering bark. Chaos erupted. Gunfire tore through the stillness, muzzle flashes flaring in the mist. We dropped, returning fire blindly at the ridgeline above. "Cover! Find cover!" I shouted, dragging Larkin behind a fallen log. The jungle exploded. AK fire, the thump of grenades, the hiss of rounds cutting through leaves. My squad scrambled for position, but visibility was a curse. Shadows fired from everywhere, from nowhere. Collins went down with a scream, clutching his leg. Sanchez crawled to him, dragging him to cover while bullets shredded the ground inches away. I fired burst after burst, teeth clenched, heart hammering. Somewhere in the madness, I realized we were pinned. They had us where they wanted us. Boxed in, swallowed by the valley itself. "Radio! Call it in!" I barked. Collins, pale and bleeding, fumbled for the handset. Static hissed. No reply. The fog, the ridges. We were cut off, alone. And in that moment, staring at my squad, bloodied, trapped, surrounded, I knew the valley wasn't just another mission. It was a grave waiting to be filled. The firefight didn't end. It stretched. A relentless grinding echo of gunfire bouncing off the valley walls until it felt like the whole world was nothing but smoke and muzzle flashes. Every time we tried to flank, more shots rained down from another angle. They weren't rushing us, they weren't trying to overwhelm us quickly. No, they were bleeding us slowly, like hunters toying with cornered prey. Sanchez got Collins stable behind cover, pressing a bandage to his leg. "He'll make it if we can get out of here," he shouted over the gunfire, though his eyes said something different. "Keep pressure on it," I barked back, even though we both knew the odds. Larkin was firing too fast, panic in every squeeze of the trigger. I crawled over, grabbed his barrel, shoved it down. "Slow down. Breathe. Make every shot count." His hands were trembling, but he nodded, swallowing his fear. The fog was thick with gun smoke now, turning the world into a gray blur. Every shadow looked like an enemy. Every flicker of movement sent my heart racing. Hendricks spotted a muzzle flash and laid down, suppressing fire, buying us seconds at a time. But it was like plugging holes in a sinking ship. For every enemy we drove back, two more seemed to emerge from the tree line. We were boxed in tight. Our only hope was to break contact and move deeper into the valley. Not out. Retreating back to our entry point was impossible. They had cut us off. "On me," I hissed. "We move north. Use the terrain." One by one, my squad shifted. We crawled, ran, ducked, firing as we went. Rounds snapped past us, close enough to feel the air split against our skin. A grenade landed just yards away. Big Tom kicked it down a slope, and the blast shook the ground, showering us in dirt and roots. We stumbled into a ravine, the walls rising steep and slick with moss. It wasn't cover, but it was something. I motioned for silence. We crouched in the muck, listening. The gunfire tapered off. The jungle fell quiet again. Not peaceful, no. It was the silence of hunters who knew exactly where their prey was hiding. "They're circling us," Hendricks whispered, eyes darting to the ridgeline above. I felt it too. That tightening noose. We weren't fighting men so much as the valley itself. The fog, the terrain, the silence between bursts of gunfire. All of it was part of the trap. Collins groaned, clutching his bandaged leg. His face was pale, slick with sweat. Sanchez glanced at me. He didn't need to speak. I knew the look. We can't carry him if we run, but we weren't leaving anyone behind. Not while I was breathing. "We make for higher ground," I ordered. "If we stay low, they'll bury us. Move slow. Move quiet. They want us desperate. Don't give it to them." We climbed, hands slipping on wet roots, boots sliding in the mud. Every step upward felt like climbing into the teeth of the valley. Halfway up, the jungle spoke again. A rifle cracked and bark splintered inches from Larkin's head. He froze, eyes wide, panic rising. I shoved him down behind a stump. Sanchez returned fire, short bursts into the mist, forcing the sniper back. We reached a shelf of ground near the ridge and collapsed into cover, gasping. The valley sprawled below us, endless green and gray. The fog rolling like a living tide. Somewhere out there, shadows were closing in. I checked my men. Mud-streaked faces, eyes too wide, chests heaving. We were alive, but barely. Collins was slipping in and out of consciousness. Hendrick's arm was grazed. Larkin's nerves were cracking. And me? My hands wouldn't stop shaking. The valley wasn't finished with us, not yet. The ridge gave us a moment's reprieve. Nothing more. The quiet was worse than the gunfire. It pressed against the eardrums, every rustle or drip of water amplified, every breath a betrayal. I raised my hand, signaling stillness. My men froze, bodies tense, rifles clutched like lifelines. The fog clung to us, curling around our helmets and shoulders, hiding the world beyond arm's length. That's when we heard it. Not gunfire, not shouts. Something softer. A faint scrape of boots on stone. A low murmur carried by the mist. They weren't rushing. They were moving with care, patience, like predators closing on wounded prey. "Eyes up," I whispered. Hendricks pointed, and there, barely visible, a shape flickered through the haze. A figure crouched low, rifle raised. Another followed, then another. The valley wasn't just circling us, it was tightening, drawing the noose. I tapped Sanchez on the shoulder. "Grenade, left flank." He nodded, pulled the pin, and lobbed it into the fog. The blast tore through the silence, the ground jumping under us. Shouts echoed, followed by the thud of bodies. But the jungle swallowed it quickly, like it always did. No scream lingered, no certainty of how many we'd hit. "They're testing us," I muttered. Rounds cracked overhead, thudding into the trees. Splinters rained down like sleet. We pressed flat against the dirt, firing in short, controlled bursts. The muzzle flashes were ghosts in the mist. Here 1 second, gone the next. Collins groaned again, louder this time. His face was waxy, his lips pale. Sanchez tried to quiet him, but the sound carried. In this valley, everything carried. "They know we're weak," Hendricks hissed. "They already knew," I said, though the words felt heavy on my tongue. Minutes bled into each other. Gunfire, silence, movement, waiting. Every nerve stretched so tight I thought they'd snap. My squad's eyes were hollow, darting constantly, fingers twitching on triggers. Then it happened. A sharp whistle cut through the fog, a signal. The shadows moved at once. Figures surged forward, rifles flashing, bayonets glinting in the gray light. They weren't probing anymore. They were closing the trap. "Fire!" I roared. The ridge lit up. Muzzle flashes burst like fireflies. The air filled with the stink of cordite and burned powder. Shadows fell. Others kept coming. Larkin screamed as a round tore past his helmet, leaving a deep gouge in the steel. Hendricks emptied his clip, reloaded with shaking hands. Kept firing. We fought like animals. No formations, no strategy. Just survival. Every shot, every grenade, every desperate push of the trigger was another second stolen from death's hand. The first wave broke, slipping back into the fog, leaving behind silence and a few still forms. But the silence was worse than the attack. It wasn't retreat. It was patience. "They're not done," Sanchez breathed, sweat dripping into his eyes. He was right. The valley wasn't finished with us. We huddled tighter, weapons pointed outward, every shadow in the fog a phantom waiting to strike. My men looked to me, waiting, trusting, needing something I wasn't sure I had left to give. "Stay sharp," I told them, forcing strength into my voice. "As long as we breathe, we fight. They want us broken. Don't give them that." But in the back of my mind, I knew the truth. The valley wasn't just trying to kill us. It was trying to bury us. We tried to breathe quiet, to move quiet, but in that fog, even the rhythm of our lungs felt like it echoed. Every sound was a signal, every twitch a flare. The second attack didn't wait long. It came sudden. Sharp cracks of rifle fire from the ridge opposite, bullets whistling past, smashing into bark and stone. The valley erupted. "Down!" I shouted, shoving Sanchez flat as rounds chewed the dirt where his head had been a heartbeat before. We returned fire, but the fog played tricks. Muzzle flashes popped and vanished, never where you expected. Shapes darted and melted, ghosts more than men. It felt like fighting shadows. Then came the mortars. The first shell whined down and hit 20 yards off, the blast shattering the ridge, showering us with mud and stone. A second fell closer, the concussive force sucking the air from my chest. Collins let out a weak moan, not from his wound this time, but from sheer terror. His eyes begged me for a promise I couldn't make. "Back! Fall back!" I yelled, dragging him by his harness. We scrambled down the far slope, slipping in mud, hands raw from clawing at roots and rock. Hendricks and Larkin laid down cover fire, shouting curses lost in the thunder of the shells. Big Tom wasn't with us anymore. I didn't see it happen. Just turned and realized the radio and the man carrying it weren't there. A hollow ache punched through me, but there was no time to mourn. We stumbled into a ravine chest deep in water that stank of rot. The current was sluggish, pulling at our legs. It offered cover, but no comfort. The jungle pressed in tighter, branches clawing like skeletal fingers. Sanchez's teeth chattered, not from cold, but from fear. "They're driving us, Sarge. Hurting us." He was right. The mortars weren't random, they were funnels. Every blast pushed us further, penned us like cattle. We waded through the foul stream, the muck tugging at our boots. The mist was thicker here, clinging low, hiding everything beyond a few feet. Every splash of water sounded like a scream. Then the whisper came. Not English, not ours. Low voices measured steady ahead, behind both. "They've got us boxed," Hendricks muttered, his rifle tight to his shoulder. I looked at their faces, hollow-eyed, mud-smeared, terrified, but still there, still fighting the urge to break. They waited for me to say something, anything that could turn this from doom into mission. I forced the words. We push forward, we make noise, we fight like hell, and we break the box. Nobody's dying in this mud pit, not today. It was bravado. A lie I needed to believe myself because deep down I knew the valley wasn't just closing in. It had us already. We tried to make a break. A desperate push through the muck, rifles barking at shadows in the fog. But the jungle had decided we weren't leaving. The ground beneath us turned against us first. The ravine narrowed, the stream twisting sharp between walls of slick stone. Every step was a fight against sucking mud that grabbed at our boots like hands. I heard Hendricks curse, wrenching his leg free only to sink again on the next step. "Faster!" I barked, dragging Collins along, his weight growing heavier with every stumble. His breaths were shallow, wet, each one rattling like glass about to break. Then came the fire again. Close this time. Too close. Bullets hissed into the water, spraying filthy mist. One round struck the stone inches from Sanchez's face, sending shards into his cheek. He didn't scream, just spat blood and kept moving. We threw ourselves against the bank, scrambling up into a tangle of roots and vines. I pressed Collins flat, covered him with my own body as the valley erupted. Rifles, machine guns, mortar shells dropping closer and closer. The sound was unbearable, like the sky itself was tearing apart. "Radio's gone," Hendricks shouted over the chaos. "We can't call it in. We're on our own." I knew it already, but hearing it said out loud was like a knife. The fog swirled, shifting with each blast. For a moment, I caught sight of them. Dark shapes moving with precision, their helmets just visible above the mist. Not ghosts. Men. Hunters. And we were prey. Larkin fired a full burst, his barrel glowing red. The return fire cut him down before the echo of his shots even faded. He dropped like a puppet with its strings cut, and the sight tore something from my chest. "We keep moving!" I roared, my throat raw. "Move!" We clawed our way up the ridge, bodies slick with mud and sweat, lungs burning. Sanchez stumbled, nearly fell back, but Hendricks grabbed him and shoved him upward. The shells stopped. Silence fell heavy. Too heavy. Even the insects were gone. I froze, every instinct screaming. That's when I heard it. A low, mournful sound rolling through the valley. Not a gun. Not a man. It was the jungle itself. A groan as if the earth resented us for clawing at its skin. Collins coughed, blood bubbling at his lips. His hand gripped mine, trembling, desperate. "Don't leave me, Sarge." And I knew. We were beyond the mission now. Beyond orders. Beyond reason. This wasn't about winning. It wasn't even about surviving. It was about refusing to be swallowed whole. We reached a plateau. A patch of ground barely wide enough for all of us to huddle on. Below, the valley stretched out like a grave we'd nearly fallen into. The fog pressed tight around us, blurring edges, making the world feel smaller, more suffocating. Collins lay in the center, his breaths coming in rattling gasps. His eyes were half-lidded, blood soaking through the bandages Sanchez had wrapped tight around his chest. He wasn't going to last much longer. "We can't stay here," Hendricks muttered, scanning the tree line with haunted eyes. "They'll come. They'll always come." He was right. The enemy didn't need to chase us. The valley itself was their weapon. Every direction down there was death. The first shots came low and quick, pinging off the rocks just above our heads. Then a mortar cracked, the shell bursting short, showering us with dirt and stone. We flattened, returned fire in short, panicked bursts. But the fog ate our bullets. We couldn't see what we were fighting. Sanchez gritted his teeth, firing controlled pairs into the mist. "They're testing us," he said, his voice like iron. "Finding the angles. Next push'll be real." Larkin's body still lay somewhere on the slope below. I forced myself not to think about him. Not to think about how many times I'd promised to get all of them home. Promises don't mean much when the earth itself wants you gone. Collins tugged at my sleeve, lips moving weakly. I leaned close, straining to hear him over the echoing cracks of rifles. "Don't let it take me. Don't!" His eyes darted toward the fog, wide with a terror deeper than death. I squeezed his hand, feeling the tremor in his grip. There are no right words for a moment like that. Only lies. "You'll make it. We're getting you out." But I knew. We all knew. The next push came hard. Figures burst through the fog like wraiths, rifles flashing. The fight became close, brutal. Sanchez tackled one, driving his bayonet into the man's chest. Hendricks dropped another with a single perfect shot. I emptied half a magazine into shadows, not even sure if I hit flesh or missed. The air was thick with gunpowder and blood, the valley echoing with screams and steel. Then silence again, the kind that feels final. We were still alive, but barely. Our ammo was nearly gone. Collins was slipping. Sanchez was bleeding from a deep cut along his arm. Hendricks' eyes were hollow, staring into a darkness only he could see. I looked at the men, my brothers, and I knew the valley wasn't going to let us leave together. The decision settled heavy in my chest. Not about orders, not about glory. About who might see another dawn and who wouldn't. And I prayed not for victory, but for the strength to do what had to be done. Collins didn't see the dawn. His breathing slowed, each gasp thinner than the last, until his chest stilled under Sanchez's trembling hands. We sat in silence around him, rifles limp, eyes hollow. No one said the words. We didn't need to. The valley had claimed him. Hendricks whispered a prayer barely audible over the rustle of the fog. Sanchez closed Collins' eyes with fingers streaked in blood and mud. For a moment I thought the jungle itself went quiet, as if listening, as if acknowledging another soul it had pulled under. We couldn't bury him. Not here. Not with the ground too hard and the enemy too close. We laid him beneath a ridge of stone, covered his body with branches, and marked the spot with nothing but memory. That's how war works sometimes. Graves with no names, men remembered only by those who walked beside them. When the sun finally burned through the fog, we made our move. Crawling, sliding, every nerve raw, we pushed west until the jungle thinned. By some mercy, the thrum of rotor blades cracked the silence. A rescue bird, low and searching. We sent the last of our flares. And for the first time in days, I felt hope pierce the weight in my chest. But as the rope dropped and we clambered toward salvation, I looked back, down into the valley. A place of shadows, of ghosts, of men who would never walk out. We left with fewer than we arrived. But the truth is, none of us truly escaped. The valley never lets you go. It clings to you in dreams, in silence, in the sound of the wind through trees. Decades later, I still hear it. Still see Collins' eyes, Hendricks' 1,000-yard stare, Sanchez's blood-soaked arm. People talk about battles in terms of victories and losses, but some battles aren't about that. Some are about survival, about carrying the weight of those who couldn't leave with you. My last patrol in the Valley of Shadows didn't end when I stepped onto that helicopter. It's still with me. It will always be with me. If you've stayed with me through this story, thank you. These memories aren't easy to share, but they deserve to be heard. If you want more stories like this, more voices from the shadows of history, subscribe, leave a comment. Let me know you're here, because the past doesn't vanish. It lingers, and sometimes it needs to be spoken aloud.